Good morning, Donna, and
Good morning.
welcome.
Thank you.
I'm really, really happy and honored to have you here on the second edition of the Infused with Vitamin L podcast, whereby basically I love to have conversation with people, with leaders about, the why of vitamin L and how we all experience it in our life in different manners. So before we really dive into, I think, some very interesting and crunchy questions, Donna, if you can just give us a quick overview of you and what brought you here on Vitamin L's podcast.
Good morning, and I'm honored to be with you, Zeina. I have been very, very eager to talk with you about vitamin L because of the beauty in how to infuse everyone in corporations, in daily life, in our interactions with others. And my background is I'm a registered nurse. I've worked in the public health field for 40 years, which is the prevention and management of diseases and also just protection of the public. And it's been a passion for me to have gone into public health because of the care that every individual should have in just understanding their own health and being able to protect themselves from diseases and such. And so that has been the main profession. I am a mother of 4 children, and I have a granddaughter who's 9. And I'm just very, very honored to be able to speak about living an intentional life infused with vitamin L.
Yeah, thank you for being here, Donna. And um, I guess, as we already have touched on within your profession, this is something that's really important, and it's a drive actually to infuse your everyday life. And I think it's also a part of personal care, maybe, because you give a lot to people, but how do you also refuel your
Correct.
own tank?
100% agree because of the nature of needs that you have that are presented to you in the healthcare profession. There's the ability to see what's in front of you and want to address them and want to serve those and care for those that you have as your patients. And then you can get to a place of depletion, and that self-care and that self-love is a big part of being able to go back and care for others as you continue to do the work. Um, I think for myself, understanding the healthcare field as well, um, it has it has built into it care. That's what we provide for
Yeah.
those around us. And when you speak about care, how are you going to address the needs of any individual when they're sometimes in their most difficult time of their life? And in order to be fully present and to understand that it's not just their physical health that you are trying to save, but the many of my patients have remarked that it was the care and the love that they received from the provider, and it was within all professions that were caring for that person. When they were touched by someone, it was because they knew that that person who stood in front of them was walking with them in that experience, whether it was being HIV positive or having AIDS, and then understanding that there was no cure for them, but they still knew that they were not alone. in that moment of need. Um, and, you know, our families that would come in from all countries around the world, all walks of life, just to be protected through vaccinations, through family planning. Um, I think every single time when you would understand that in the healthcare field, we we have that ability to show up for with the authenticity, that all the values that are part of the pillars of Infused with Love, the human connection, the human-centered connection, the authenticity, and the care. And then when you talk about contribution, I think anyone who goes into the healthcare field is understanding that they are contributing and serving mankind through the care that they can give. So I think it's important for people to know that when they go into the healthcare field, that that is something that's already innate in it. And to be able to perhaps use Infused with vitamin L in that setting, then it's the awareness is there, and people would not forget that in their hurrying life within a hospital setting or within a clinic setting or within the doctor's office setting, there tends to be, again, that need for the performance measures and to be able to say, this is what I accomplished today, and this is, the earnings that were brought in from the procedures or the surgeries or whatever it is that you happen to be involved in. I think the nursing field is very diverse in the different avenues you can go in to be able to express what you want to do in your nursing. You can go into education, you can go into um, public health like I did, or you could go into different fields in the hospital, cardiology, neurology, whatever it is, but you have that underlying premise of I'm here for the patient, and in order to be here for the patient, I have that recognition that they are human and I'm here to help serve them and infuse them with a little of the vitamin. Oh, I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's true. I mean, by definition, you would definitely think that the healthcare industry is where it's by vocation, right? That you're human-centered and you care. But like rightly so, you said it. I mean, there's so much pressure also for performance and for numbers that has reached this sector, also this field. Just wanted to ask you, in your personal experience also, how has the concept of vitamin L manifested? I would love to hear your insight on this.
Mm. Um, I think it starts with, for myself, speaking for myself, from a very young age, I've always been heart-centered, and I think being a heart-centered person, vitamin L has been and love has been a driving force. And when I have had to make my most difficult decisions, even throughout my life as a young person, I was 18. I went to live at a intentional community of over 300 people. It was during 1970s, and we in the United States, there was a lot of movements of, we used to call them back to the land movements, because we were so far away from our roots of knowing how to take care of the land and the earth and grow our own food. And in those days, there was also a spiritual component. So I made a choice at a young age of 18, before I'd experienced much in the world, to live at this community. And it was something in my heart that drew me, and having that recognition that in others around me, there was a commonality of that we were all here because of that concept of vitamin L. And so as time went on, I came to an understanding that it was time for me to move. And as I left the community, I left with a man that became my first husband. And we were very, very much good friends and ended up becoming romantic. And I felt that there's just always been a drive in me. It's always been something that has, it's a knowledge. It's something in me that I know I'm on the right path when I've listened to that, that, um, the concept of vitamin L, of how is this right? And is this the direction I want to go in? And I became a nurse during those years. And I also then knew that it was, the relationship with my husband at the time had to end. And there was, there was communication between us that was infused with vitamin L in a sense because we both recognized the same thing. And so we were able to end that marriage. I've been friends with him. We have a child together. I've been friends with him this my whole life. I'm talk with his wife very often. And at this after, few years, I was able to start working as a nurse, and I was able to initially, I worked as we called it, the Homeless Healthcare Project, but it was street medicine, and street medicine is something that is a more recognized specialty for healthcare providers in these days, because in the United States, we have a lot of individuals that live in such poverty, they don't have housing, and we call them unhoused at this time. And so I did street nursing for almost 4 years, or I should say almost 5 years. And when I was in this work, the social worker I worked with was a man that I fell deeply in love with. And there you have vitamin L again. And so we, I recognized in him the first meeting I was in with him, the thoughts I had when I saw him and listened to him speak about the people on the streets that we were caring for. And my first thought was, what a caring heart. And that's the values of vitamin L. And I know that throughout my whole relationship with this man that became my husband was our centeredness, our the heart centeredness that we shared together was a passion for giving back to the world. It was a passion for, we aligned in so many ways in our values, but the love was one that I cherish to this day. My husband ended up becoming ill with leukemia, and he died in 2018. And he was a man whose life was devoted to service. And it was very difficult for me to watch his suffering um, as he became ill with this terrible cancer, um, because I didn't understand how someone who had spent their entire lives in such a way then would suffer in the end of their life. But I think my husband, in whatever way it was that life unfolded for him, he had this deep understanding that he was here for a short time, and he did as much as he could in the time that he was here. He started program after program for the poor in the town we lived in California, and was instrumental in helping hundreds, if not thousands of people get out of their living on the streets into housing and being cared for with vitamin L. So as each of my the lifetimes you get to be, I'm 70 now, and you get to understand that you've had many lifetimes within your own life, and you understand the value and the depth of knowledge that grows during each of these lifetimes and what it is that you were given throughout those different lifetimes. And I know that throughout the years of my life, I've always had that the drive in me has been about love, has been about recognizing where my value, what it is that is deepest in my values. And you can call it love, you can call it kindness and respect, and how that manifests, I guess. How do you manifest what vitamin L is? And to me, it was about service and about kindness. And that's to every individual I meet on the street, and to, you know, friends and family, however it is um, that you interact with the world. I think infused with vitamin L is one of the most beautiful concepts, with those 4 pillars that I've come to understand Zeina has, with human-centeredness, authenticity, and care, and contribution. I couldn't have said it better. So,
Thank you. Thank you, Donna. And, um, listening to you, I love how you weave it all together because, usually we love to compartmentalize, and people tend to ask me, but who is it for? And is it for corporate? Is it for entrepreneur? The concept of vitamin L. Is it for, and I say, no, it's for everyone. It's actually the ever omnipresent, ubiquitous energy, feeling, drive that whether you are a health worker or a CEO, we all have it in us. We all carry it in us. But how do we allow ourselves to express it, actually? And it's beautiful listening to you in how, whether it's from a romantic relationship or the choice of your career or the way you relate to people, ultimately it's a posture, right, of being infused with vitamin L. And this is what we like to say in with vitamin L, is that practice before, I mean, who do you say you are when you are in everyday's life rather than what you claim? And it's not about being perfect or having the right things or saying the right words at the right time. It's really about being profoundly human, I guess, and
and
connect
recognizing that humanity in all,
in
because
all.
we all are exactly the same. And as you were talking, made me think of the world that I know very little about, the corporate world, because going into public health wasn't the we did have the accountability, of course, to the taxpayers, to our paying source, and so the but as in public health, you could focus on the patient, on our patients. But in the corporate world, and even in the IT, and now technology has, the CEOs of all the companies through the world now, there is such a driving force of monetary value and power. And you think, well, if you're going to be successful, you have to go in that direction. And I think we're living in a time right now that is, unfortunately, the who's reaping the benefits are the very few. And they're doing it through um, a means that is the opposite of what vitamin L, infused with vitamin L, is. And it's it's pretty much against my understanding of how the world works. And so it's a recognition that everything has its own time, and we're in this great change throughout the world that I think um, there's going to be a period of time of recognition for all the hurt that
Hmm.
many individuals, in particular, the administration of the country I live in, the United States, is the perpetrator of such violence, and there's going to come a reckoning that has to come, and it may not be in my lifetime, but it will come because I think, you know, love is the greatest, the most powerful source, and force for the world that ever was. It's what has brought about all the changes for any good, and that will be coming. It's just not, it's not, I'm not sure of when, but it will come. We're gonna have
Yeah.
the pendulum sweep in the other direction towards love.
I think so. And it's interesting to see how sometimes, according to the environment, and especially I come from the corporate world, I come pretty much from the opposite. And um, it's interesting to see how care and contribution are sometimes taken with a pinch of salt, and because it can it can be viewed as soft, as not being tough enough, as not stepping up to the game, and that love and care doesn't go along with performance and delivery, and you have to do a lot of politics to move up the ladder. And as you said, Donna, I mean, we're seeing that this formula didn't work. And if anything, people are more burnt out than ever.
Mhm.
And with COVID and when everything slowed down, there was this new wave of quiet quitting when people didn't leave their jobs because they needed the money, but internally they had quit. They're like, I'm no longer here. So
Mhm.
as you said, it's gonna have to change because, well, again, if you go back to performance, they're seeing that it's backfiring and it's costing them so much more money.
I feel too that um and I know you work with youth, and I have children, and I have a granddaughter, and I've been around youth for really my entire life, having been volunteered with many children over the years through hospice, and I know the way they look at the world, that their eagerness and their anticipation of where will they find their place and find success and in what they love, and finding that in what they love, and then having the doors open for them. I think within, again, the change with how AI is going to impact so many payable positions of work, that I think there must be a creative force that is going to work within people, because people are so innovative. And I think maybe that's a change that could be for the positive, that creativity can come in a way. And I hope that that is what comes about for our young people. But the, um, the real challenge for them is within finding that meaning within all the different job sectors, particularly corporate, to have those, the options for them to choose, again, what they love, but also to have that availability be for them and not experience a job that brings them into burnout because they're not being connected to something that's greater than themselves. And I think people innately want to be doing something that is contributing.
Yeah. And, I don't know if we touched on this previously in our conversations, Donna, but Infused with Vitamin L was also co-created with the youth and what they're looking for and what they're thinking about. And what started as a joke internally with, my youth, the group I work with, they started, saying, "Oh, you would like this company. It's very vitamin L," or "This dish is very vitamin L." So they started really applying this notion in their everyday conversation to say, okay, this is a vetted person, or a vetted place, or I remember also someone, one of she was 26 back then, and she was in a job, being burned out, and she didn't know if she should leave because she didn't know what was waiting for her on the other side. So she said,
Right.
actually, if the company had this slogan infused with vitamin L, or this, label, I would know that I'm going to a safe emotional and psychological place to work for. So that's very
Mhm.
interesting that they've embraced it in a way that is very natural to them, whereas we are still a bit shying away from these profound and simple values, actually, when it comes to being
And
performant in the corporate world. So
I think,
hopefully, yeah.
yes, I do agree that that child that is emerging and becomes growing into the adult, that vulnerability still stays there. And when they continue to, you know, want to have just a seat at the table, and how that is able to be supported, and again, not knowing exactly what profession they've chosen, but to have um, the opportunities to really find what they want. I have a lot of, I mean, in an honest way, I have a lot of sadness for my children at times, just in how I've brought them into this world, and wanting them to have the opportunities. And I've told my two of my sons are stepsons and two are my own. And I I have told each of them how deeply sorry I am that I wasn't able to bring about the world that I was hoping to have made help to form this world into a place of love, into a place of compassion, and that we have, we have values that are based on human care and human kindness, and not on, you know, every man or woman for themselves, in a sense. And so when I've said this to them, and I've said to their friends, because their friends are remarkable people. I mean, I've just loved meeting every one of th- people emerging in their own lives, and in their choices. And they've many of them have chosen paths of being teachers, being, way in ways of giving back to society. And, they do also feel the understanding that they're up against a lot.
And, this is also one of the reasons that the community, I mean, I'm really strong about creating also this community of people all over the world who are living and operating under these values, and who actually, because like you, I'm a mother and I'm very close to my youngs, and I would like the hope and the love to be, shared amongst them, and for them to feel that actually there are so many of us around the world who want to live and operate from this place. And so sometimes we can feel lonely because we don't necessarily have this community or this sangha of people right around us. But this is an online and offline
Mhm.
platform to be able to connect and to say, okay, I see you, I hear you, I can feel, like we're sharing the same values and the same path. So
And what a gift. What a gift that is to have an online community, to be sitting here in California and to have Zeina, you are in Switzerland, and to
correct.
feel that it just is so exciting to me. It's so wonderful that I can connect with you, but in the larger sense of what Infused with Vitamin L will be,
Yeah.
to have that larger community continue to grow throughout the world. It's a miracle.
And considering that we have met online, we haven't met in person yet, but this is where
Right.
you, like you were mentioning before, the power of this energy, it goes beyond spaces and time and just gives us the opportunity to have a heart to heart, genuine, perfectly imperfect connection. And well, I would love to thank Eleftheria and her wonderful program that brought us together. So I'd love to ask you if how do you see, our role also? Because we met through the facilitation training for Women's Circle that Eleftheria has beautifully put together. And also in the corporate world, more and more facilitation is becoming the new way of leading meetings. It's being proven that it's something that is, it's a format that is much more um, uh, profitable, let's say, that brings much more cohesion, understanding, and alignment between teams, or especially when you have complex project. So I'd
Mm.
like to hear how in your world this facilitation has benefit or has been
Mm.
expressed and experienced.
I'd love to talk about Root to Rise with Eleftheria, who is um, she's, I believe for me, she's been one of the wisest women that I've been able to communicate with in a way that is so natural and so just easy to open up and bear the different experiences and feelings and understandings we all go through. And I was introduced to Eleftheria last year by a good friend who was also had also been working with Eleftheria, and the opportunity came for me to work with Eleftheria just one-on-one in a therapy session. And then she brought up the Root to Rise and the facilitation and how it would work in bringing people together. We call them circles. You can call them whatever you want, but the ability for people to feel that there is an intentional environment is kind of how I have thought of facilitation, and individuals can collaborate in a way where they can be authentic and they can share their experiences. And if it's in a business world where you come together to hear different ideas, you can allow those ideas to be brought forth with their in the facilitation setting. You would have one of the individuals be able to facilitate how the meeting is set up and what the intention is. Again, is I think foremost for me how you have this gathering and at the table in a way that everyone has an understanding of what, say the code of ethics might be, or say what it is your boundaries would be. Interestingly enough, I had started a group last year of community members here just to be able to talk over our response to the politics of what we're experiencing in the U.S. And this has been going on for over a year, and much of what I've been learning in the facilitation route to rise has helped me in this small gathering throughout this last year, because it's helped me to address some of the issues that can come up within group meetings. And I think it's innate in groups that their conflict can arise or misunderstandings can be brought up. There can be different personalities that come in that just arise in group settings. And it's just part of the human experience of how we communicate, and then being able to listen and facilitate those those um, those glitches, those areas where you need help from the facilitator. And so we have come this this long way. We're in the month of last day of April, and we will be completing this training in the next several months,
Yes.
culminating in September. So we have a wonderful graduation, just gathering that we're going to have in Greece on the island of Crete. And it's going to be remarkable for me to be able to meet the women that I've met online through the facilitation. And it's just a precious group that we've learned to communicate in a way that is authentic. And it's always understanding that listening is even more important in the facilitation than speaking your opinion, because individuals in that setting can also work through their thoughts, which is a really important part of the facilitation, because we all have that knowledge within ourselves. And oftentimes it's not able to bubble up or come forth until you've worked through some things,
Yep.
and then you can speak about it from an authentic place. So
Mm.
it's been wonderful. It's
Yeah,
been a
it's been a
wonderful,
wonderful journey.
yeah.
Yes, indeed. Indeed, one that initially, you probably wouldn't encompass all it takes to learn and to train to become a facilitator until you're in it. And indeed, to hold a posture of really empathy, active listening, and bringing people together takes a lot as a human. So it's very, very interesting discovery this year altogether. Donna, I was
Thank
just wondering if, in conclusion, there's a question that you would love to be asked, or something that we haven't touched on and that you would like to conclude with.
I would say, what has brought you the most joy in life? Because to me, joy is so effervescent and an important part of the experience of life. And without it, we can't get to the love. We can't see the love, and the joy arises out of that. And so I would say, whatever gives you joy in life, embrace that and allow it to be infused with vitamin L.
Wow. I love it because we don't speak much about joy, do we? We usually maybe mention more happiness or fun or laughter, but joy is such a profound one. And thank you. Thank you for bringing it up.
Thank you. Thank you. I honor you. I just have been just incredibly inspired by who you are and what you've given to the world, Zeina, and what you've given to our group and to me. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thanks to you, Donna. And I look forward to more conversations. I'm sure it's not the last one. More to come.
Okay, more to come. All
Much
the
love
love.
from Switzerland. Thank you, Donna.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.